Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And I've just watched the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, as I'm sure you have as well. In fact, it finished like half an hour ago. I was waiting to see if anything came of the drivers going to the stewards for something under yellow flags. I don't know if anything's going to happen with that, and I actually don't care anymore. I'll just do the video now. So let's go through everything that happened in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Starting with Lewis Hamilton going out in Q1 of qualifying. That's a bad... I mean, he's said that it's down to some changes he made. So maybe it wasn't the car entirely. And Russell did do a good job in qualifying. But Hamilton was way off the pace. And he wasn't that much better in the race. The car did look better in race format. So I mean, I don't know what they did or what they can do to the car. But it did look a little bit better in the race. It wasn't amazing, but it was about where Mercedes are. So for him to finish 10th, only a single point, you don't usually see Lewis Hamilton down that low just on race pace. And he was unlucky with the pit lane being closed when he wanted to pit. But still, he had a pretty quiet race, all told. He made some overtakes early on, but as soon as he had his tyres changed, he came back out in 12th. He only made up 2 spots. Didn't get past Magnussen. In fact, I don't think he even got close to Magnussen. So Mercedes' troubles are continuing. They have 2 weeks till Australia. Maybe they'll think of something. We'll have to wait and see. But it doesn't really matter, because at the front of the field we have Verstappen versus Leclerc, and this battle has been fantastic both times we've seen it. Firstly in Bahrain, now here. Some real fourth dimensional chess thinking going on between the two. Especially when they came up to that DRS line and they both slammed on the brakes, trying not to be the first one to go over it. It's pretty incredible stuff. You don't really see that level of thinking normally from drivers. So I think these two really... 2022, if it's all about them, I'm fine with that. I'm down to watch that every week. So, I mean, it's a good thing for the future that we have all these young drivers who are pretty incredible. We do need to get rid of some of the older drivers, which goes for Lewis Hamilton especially. But does also include the likes of Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas. They've kind of overstayed their welcome now, because there's a lot of really good drivers in Formula 2 as well. If you watch Formula 2, you'll know. The likes of Liam Lawson, Yuri Vips, you got Oscar Piastri racing in the wings. There's so many good drivers at the moment. And even below that, you've got Oliver Behrman coming up as well, who looks like a really good driver. And Jehan Daruvala is a really good driver. And Ayuma Iwaza. And many more I could name. But we've already seen drivers miss out, like Nick de Vries. Probably should have got a Formula 1 race seat at some point. Robert Schwartzman maybe as well, although politically that might not go his way now. There are so many options for drivers, and there's a lot of drivers on the F1 grid who have been around a long time. Maybe, even if they don't want to, someone needs to say to them, hey, come on, it's someone else's turn. Let's get some young blood up here again. This new generation of drivers is looking really, really good. Even down to people like Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris. We've seen so many good things from them. And Pierre Gasly as well was in that. It is such a top quality Formula 1 grid at the moment. And Verstappen and Leclerc leading this charge, doing a really good job with some great racing so far. Leclerc still leads the championship because he's finished first and second. We could see a Verstappen-like year from him, where it's just the amount of times he finishes in the top 2 that wins the championship in the end. Carlos Sainz in the second Ferrari is doing a fantastic job as well. He's nothing really to say about him. He's just very steady, gets the job done, gets the podiums. He only had 6 podiums in his Formula 1 career before 2022. It's going to be interesting to see if he can match that. I'm sure he will, because he's only got 2 of them. If he keeps it up, he can knock this out by Spain, which is only the 6th round. Perez was very, very unlucky in this race. Qualified on pole and did nothing wrong. Honestly, if he kept the lead, I don't think Leclerc would have caught him to pass him. But he got caught out by the safety car. It really, really, really hurt his race. Once he was in 4th, the Ferraris and Red Bulls are so close on pace that it was always going to be difficult to make an impression into Carlos Sainz, and he couldn't manage it. But he is still doing a really good job. I think there's no doubt that he is a better backup driver to Verstappen than Gasly and Albon were, and Daniel Kvyat if he had stayed. Although he never was teammates with Verstappen. I mean, it's definitely those two teams that are leading the pack in 2022, and it's fantastic to see. I'm way more excited for Verstappen and Leclerc than I was Verstappen versus Hamilton. It's nice Hamilton not being in the frame for wins. It just leaves more options open. Mercedes had their dominance for so many years, and now that they're not really in the picture, it's been really, really exciting to watch. I'm sure Mercedes will be back in the picture at some point. They're a big enough unit to do it. They have the money, they have the manpower. But at the moment, Ferrari, Red Bull, that's going to be a fantastic fight all year. Now for the rest of the grid, as I said, George Russell did a really good job, and I think Williams are definitely missing him because their year is not going well. Latifi crashed, and I've defended Latifi a lot on this channel, but he does keep making mistakes. He crashed twice this weekend. He crashed in Abu Dhabi at the end of 2021. I don't know how many chances he's going to get to prove himself in 2022. Williams seem off the pace anyway. They've gone back to being the backmarker team, and it makes you wonder how much George Russell was propping that team up. By the looks of it, quite a lot. And Alexander Albon, I don't think he's top tier talent. He's okay. He had his crash with Stroll in this one as well, so both Williams are damaged. It's not a good sign for them, and I don't see their year getting much better. Who else was in this race? So Ocon and Alonso in the Alpines both had interesting races. They raced hard against each other, and that's really fun to see. Alonso really struggled to get past Ocon, and Ocon is having a fantastic year so far. Much improved on last year. I've kind of been down on him in 2021, and I didn't expect him to have a good 2022. So far, he's got off to a flying start. It was a shame to lose Alonso from the race because he was doing a real good job. He would have definitely scored points. And Alpine, they seem to be the best of the rest, at least in the midfield. Maybe behind Mercedes, but they seem to be ahead of McLaren, Aston Martin, even AlphaTauri. Haas, they're not quite up to that standard yet. So Alpine, they need to keep this going as long as they can, because I'm sure other teams will catch up. So for now, it is a really good performances from Ocon and Alonso. Lando Norris scored points for McLaren. They still don't really look on the pace. I think he's a bit lucky to finish 7th, but it was still a decent job from the Brit. As I said, he is definitely one of the next generation of talented drivers. I'm sure it'll be interesting to see if McLaren can get back up to where they were. Ricciardo, he's not had a great year so far. He has definitely looked off the pace, and retiring won't help that any. I don't know if he would have scored points anyway. Definitely the lower end of the points if he had. Pierre Gasly as well did a fantastic job, really, for AlphaTauri. I don't know if it could be better. I don't know where their pace is relative to everyone else. Gasly just seems to do a fantastic job wherever he is. It's a shame he retired in Bahrain, because I think he would have scored points there as well. Behind him, Magnussen, he's still having a fantastic year. This race maybe didn't turn out as well as they thought it could. He went long on strategy. He pitted at the right time, got ahead of Hamilton. Good enough for 9th. It was a fair enough performance. Hamilton was 10th, as I said. Guan Yu Zhou managed to get back up to 11th after his issues with penalties. I don't know what happened in that first stop. The jack just didn't seem to work, and the commentator said that he just forgot to do the penalty. That may be true, which is embarrassing. But even with that and a drive-through penalty, he still managed to finish 11th. It's not a point, but a new driver, and so far he's finished 10th and 11th, and he's finished both races. That's a good enough job from Zhou. I'm sure we'll see him in the points again. Hülkenberg was 11th. Stroll technically 12th. I don't know if he made it to the end of the race or not. Aston Martin, they're struggling, and it's going to be interesting to see what Sebastian Vettel can do, because I don't think Lance Stroll's the best measuring stick. Hülkenberg has been steady enough, but he hasn't scored points. Stroll still doesn't have any points. They definitely seem to be more towards Williams than they do Alpine. It's a shame to see Aston Martin down that low. I'm sure they'll get points at some point in the season, but I think they do need Vettel back to lead the team. So for the non-finishers, I mean, we had Bottas, Ricciardo and Alonso all break down at pretty much the same time. I don't know if they were all overheating issues. I think that's what the commentators were suggesting. Whether they have actual evidence of that, no idea. If all three cars overheated at the same time, that maybe, I think teams need to look at why and maybe not do that. But them blocking off the pit lane probably caused the most excitement in this race. Bringing out the virtual safety car. I mean, arguments should be made that maybe they should just have safety cars. Do you really want this virtual safety car to remain? Like, when something happens, surely the safety car is a good way to make the race more exciting. If that's what you want to watch on television, why have virtual safety cars? I know, like, this idea that you keep the status quo going, which is fine if they're running pretty close together. But when the field's strung out, just send out a safety car. They do it in British touring cars. I'm pretty sure Alan Gow brought out the safety car to get leaves off the track once, and it was actually just, close the field up. She was at the Masters race in 2004, I think. So it was just a bit of fun, I suppose, and bring it back up. But I think if I was going to change anything with Formula 1, virtual safety cars are kind of pointless. I'd just bring out a safety car. And I'd get rid of DRS because it's great that we're getting these closer battles and cars can run behind each other. Fantastic. But DRS overtakes are just, I think they're counterproductive. Cars can blast past each other. That's not necessarily exciting. I want to see cars going into corners at the same time. Most of the time on DRS, the cars overtaking have done it by the time they've got to the corner. Whereas you want to see two cars get to the same place nearly at the same time, as close as possible. And it's those battles that make racing interesting. I'd actually bring back refueling as well, just because it brings another element to strategies. It brings the teams in a bit more. I think IndyCar proves you can do refueling safely, and there's responses when things do go wrong. And they've already talked about getting rid of tyre warmers and doing the Super Formula thing. I think that's a great idea, because hey, you save electricity, you're being more green by doing that for a start. And also, if you watch Super Formula and they come out of the pits and it's like they're driving on tiptoes because they have to get to, like, it's another part of strategy. You add as many elements without having too many gimmicks. I think should be the main rule in motorsport. Super Formula is great. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with like push to pass. I think it's less invasive than DRS is. And I mean, how long have we had DRS now? It's a very long time. It takes away what it adds. Yes, you're getting more overtakes, but they're not necessarily the kind of overtakes you want to see. I mean, they've probably spent millions talking to technology experts and probably TV people as well about what's exciting, and I'm sure someone's ticked a box saying keep DRS around. I don't know, it'll probably have to go through committees and stuff. Maybe in the future we can get past DRS. But anyway, that was the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I don't know if I missed anything. I may have done, as in I haven't talked about it. There was a great battle at the start where like the Alpines were going to be caught by the Alfa Romeo and Magnussen and the Haas. I didn't talk about Mick Schumacher's crash. I'll get back to that. But yeah, so those four cars looked to be getting close. It only really happened at one point, and they seemed to get strung out again after. But I mean, it looks like it's at least possible to have these battles. So yeah, Mick Schumacher had a massive accident. 170 miles an hour. It destroyed the car, and he didn't make it out for the race on Sunday. I mean, Haas said it's because either they didn't have enough spare parts, or if he crashed again, they wouldn't have a car ready for Australia. So they've taken the safer option, just keep him out of it and have the car ready for the next race. It's a shame to not see him out there because he still hasn't scored any points in Formula 1, and Haas is at the moment good enough that he might be able to at some point. But sooner's better than later, because if the other teams catch up or Haas drop back a bit, he may lose his chance. So it'd be nice to see him take every opportunity to score points this year. So hopefully we'll see him back in Australia all fine with the car ready to go. Yuki Tsunoda didn't start either because he had an engine issue, which is always a shame because I like Yuki Tsunoda. And I mean, we started with 18 cars. It's always a little bit disappointing not to have all the cars on the grid. But yeah, anyway, this has been a very long rambling video, so I'll leave it there. Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel and have a good one.